As we got older, my parents would buy my brother new clothes every year for school, while I had to mend my clothes every year. They would only buy me something if my clothes were so tattered that they were nothing more than rags. They even got him the latest technologies as well. He got a brand new computer when I had to struggle using a cheap calculator that I had found. Even the food that we would eat. My parents and Charles would eat very well and would have steak or lobster, while I was forced to eat stale bread and canned meat. Charles was growing stronger as a result, and I was so incredibly underweight. Even so, I was still expected to constantly do the lion's share of the chores, while Charles was given the freedom to go out and have fun. He had so many friends and was constantly going out to have a good time, while I was forced to stay home and do the laundry and cook. Sometimes I spent a lot of time in my room reading. Hi there, my name is Grant, and I hate my family. I know how bad that sounds, but they really are awful. Trust me, once I tell you all about them, I know that you'll agree with me. You see, the pain and troubles started when my brother Charles and I were very young. One of my earliest memories is of my parents being cruel. Hey Charles, do you want to race down to the park and go on the swings? Yeah, that sounds like fun. Fun? What are you brats talking about? There are chores to be done. But we already did all our chores, Dad. Can't we go out and play? No, there's more work to be done. Before I could say anything else, my father slapped me across the face as hard as he could. Instantly, my brother and I went quiet and forgot about going to the park and got to work as our father instructed. Sadly though, things got so much worse. As Charles and I began to get older, he hit a growth spurt and was much bigger and stronger than me. He also started topping his class. My parents saw this as a sign that he had more potential, and so they began to give him more favor. They stopped being harsh on him and focused all their cruelty onto me. It wasn't incredibly obvious at first, but it began to be more and more noticeable. While I was expected to cut the grass and trim the hedges, my father was playing catch with my brother. I'm not gonna lie, I felt really angry that I was expected to keep working while they got to have fun, although it was beyond just that kind of thing. As we got older, my parents would buy my brother new clothes every year for school, while I had to mend my clothes every year. They would only buy me something if my clothes were so tattered that they were nothing more than rags. They even got him the latest technologies as well. He got a brand new computer when I had to struggle using a cheap calculator that I had found. Even the food that we would eat. My parents and Charles would eat very well and would have steak or lobster, while I was forced to eat stale bread and canned meat. Charles was growing stronger as a result, and I was so incredibly underweight. Even so, I was still expected to constantly do the lion's share of the chores, while Charles was given the freedom to go out and have fun. He had so many friends and was constantly going out to have a good time, while I was forced to stay home and do the laundry and cook. Sometimes I spent a lot of time in my room reading, since I had nothing to entertain me for those times when I had no chores. It was during one of these nights that I heard Charles asking our parents for a car. Mom and Dad, can I please have a car? We're so sorry, Charles, but we don't have the money for a decent car for you, and you deserve only the best. But I want one. Don't you guys love me?
Well, I have an idea. Grant, get in here.
Yes, guys?
Grant, you need to get a part-time job.
Okay. But why?
Because you need to help out. Your brother needs a car and you will help us.
Wait a minute. So I have to get a job, but then I can't even enjoy the money I make? You selfish jerk. After we give you a house to live in and food in your belly, how can you be so self-absorbed? Reluctantly, I obeyed and went and started applying to jobs. However, I didn't have much luck at first. Every day I would come home without a job. My parents would scream at me and would alternate between hitting me or refusing to feed me. And I missed so many meals until I finally found a job at a dealership. It was hard work, but I didn't mind it actually. Mostly because I was able to get out of the house and spend time doing something other than just being stuck in my room. It stunk that I had to give my paycheck to my parents, and they in turn gave it to my brother, but I started making friends with the people that I worked with. My boss even started to take a shine to me, and some days he would have me taking the cars from the lot to get gassed up, or to even deliver cars. During these deliveries, he even would buy me food sometimes. Hey Grant, you've been doing such a great job. I wanted to give you a raise. Oh, thanks, I guess? You guess? I thought maybe you would be happy. Well, I would be, but I don't really get to enjoy the money I make. I have to give it to my parents. My boss was shocked when he heard that. I had been giving all my money to my parents so that my brother could buy a car. He then promised that he would still give me my raise, but that he would pay it to me under the table. That way, I could have my own money that my family wouldn't even know about. I then asked if he could help me open a secret bank account that my family wouldn't know about, and then demand access to it. Slowly, my secret account grew. All the while, the vast majority of my paycheck went to my brother, who eventually had enough to buy a pretty nice car. However, even after he bought it, I still had to give my money to my parents. They claimed that I still owed them for all that they were doing for me, which in all honesty wasn't much. As I got older and was about ready to graduate from high school, I was getting fed up with them. After years of hiding the bruises that I got from, and basically being their personal slave, I wanted a way out. And so I went and spoke to my boss. He saw a lot of potential in me, and he helped me to apply to college. With his help, I was accepted into a business program. Once I found out that I was accepted, I took out a loan with the help of my boss, and I packed what little I owned, and I moved out. My family didn't even notice until payday arrived, and I wasn't there to give the money. It was then that my father called me up to ask what was going on. "Hey, where the hell are you? You owe us money." "The hell I do. I'm done being your personal punching bag. I'm off to school. You have a job. You don't need my money." I then hung up on him and blocked his number. Even so, my father showed up a couple weeks later at my college. I'm not sure how he had found me, but he was determined to bring me home. "I don't know how you got accepted here or where you got the money, but this ends now. You are coming with me. There's no way a loser like you deserves to go to college. You don't get to tell me what to do anymore. I'm not a child, and I won't go with you. So you better leave before you regret it." I had been eating healthy since I left home and had been working out. Both things that my father took for granted as he tried to grab me and drag me to his car with the intent to bring me home. However, I wasn't a kid anymore, and I was finally stronger than him. As he tried to drag me away, I pulled myself away from him and then punched him a few times in the stomach and then a few times in the head. He fell to the ground unconscious, and I just walked away. After that, I didn't hear from him for quite a long time. The money I had in my secret account really came in handy during those first few months after leaving home. Plus, I took on part-time jobs near my school, which really helped out with expenses as well. My time at school went really well, and I graduated having learned quite a bit. With my newfound knowledge, I went back to the dealership, and my boss was very impressed with how much I learned. He gave me a promotion and made me a sales associate. After a few months, I was able to double the sales at the dealership by improving our advertising and doing some sales training with the staff. Once again, I had impressed my boss, and as a reward, he gave me a car as a way to both thank me for all my hard work, but to also reward me for coming so far in life. Years passed, and I helped to grow the dealership until it had become so profitable that we were able to expand and open 2 new dealerships in neighboring towns. It was at that point that my boss made me part owner, which meant I would get profit sharing. At that point, I really started to make a very comfortable living. It was around that time that my family showed up at the latest dealership that we opened up. They all looked rather beaten down, and all 3 of them were wearing clothes that were pretty worn out. As it turned out, my brother had been drinking and driving with that fancy car that he had bought with the money that he had stolen from me and had crashed it into a telephone pole. The girl that he had been driving around with was killed instantly, while he was paralyzed from the waist down and was stuck in a wheelchair. After that, the family of the girl sued my parents and brother and had been awarded a large sum of money. So much so that my parents had been forced to sell their home in order to pay the amount. After that, they moved into a small 1-bedroom house and were forced to pinch every penny. Why are you people here? I left home years ago, and it was the best thing I could ever have done. I want nothing to do with any of you. Please, Grant. We are really struggling. Your brother can't get a job on account of his disability, and living in such a small home is torture on us. Please, can't you just help out your family? Of course not. You treated me like garbage for most of my life and gave everything to Charles. You chose him and hitched your cart to him. It's not my fault that he turned out to be a dud. Now if you don't leave, I'll force you to. To prove my point, I had security called up, and they stood nearby, looking intimidating. Defeated, my family slowly walked away, and I didn't hear from them again for years, until my mother called me up and told me that my father had passed away from liver failure. Both he and my brother had become terrible alcoholics and were slowly drinking themselves to death. Even then, I just couldn't find it within me to have any sympathy for them. And so I have chosen to change my last name and to move on. I figured that they had pretty treated me like I wasn't family until I had money, so there was no reason for me to be a part of their family anymore. I chose a new last name, and I plan to start my own family. Although I promise that I will learn from their bad mistakes, and I promise to be a good husband and father. There is no way my children will ever have to go through what I did. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.